Did you know that what you eat matters more than how much? So I guess I say this in the context of optimizing your body, realizing, well, recovery has a lot to do with the amount of inflammation the body has to deal with, and many times you find that happening through your gut lining, especially through foods that you eat or anything that you consume. So besides the typical digestion process that happens as you intake food or drinks or whatever it is, you end up going through a lot of responses in the microbiome, the gut microbiome, these organisms that have their own processing ability as well, besides the fact that they keep the integrity or the lining of your gut in check as well. So thus really controlling the level of inflammation and the swelling response that can happen, or that does happen to an extent after each time you eat. I guess the key thing is realizing that foods, drinks, etc., they have different levels or varying levels of this irritation on the body, or they can. Some not quite irritable or not irritable at all, to others being really significant. And depending on your, it really depends on your individual microbiome, aka this genetic profiling of the microbiome for yourself. But also, I guess that runs in parallel to your genetics, the DNA genetics, whether you're susceptible or you have diseases that are encoded, etc., that are on or off, both of which are affected by your microbiome as well, because that does influence that does give an influence upon how your body may respond going forward. But anyways, cutting it more simple in terms of what we're describing here is this, that when you eat something, when you consume something that irritates you, regardless of how much, even in the slightest amount, if your body is sensitive or irritable from that component or substance, your body really does respond, even in minuscule amounts. And I guess one thing that I've noticed is that sometimes or in the past, when you feel better, or when you're healthier, or your body's not run down, or however you want to describe it, you may not notice those subtleties. However, they tend to be present, especially noticeable when you are actually doing continuous biometrics, is the easiest way of putting it. But I guess one way that I've been mentioning a lot is sleep metrics, recovery metrics, how they are able to tell these differences. I guess the Oura ring that I use, it's measuring a few hundred times a minute from what I understood from the technology, etc. And when it's making these measurements, I guess you are getting an objective clarity or picture as to what's happening. So, for example, yesterday night, or actually yesterday, ate medjool dates, and in a certain amount, I actually do okay. Meaning, like, it's not terrible compared to, let's say, I guess some food that I really am irritated by are pineapples or citrus in general. I guess that was very notable when my autoimmune disease stress response kicked off, revealing eczema or eczema dermatitis that ran through the body, along with other conditions that affect mental wellness, etc. But having medjool dates in a certain amount, as journaled in my past, seemed to be okay. I guess I'm going through a reset diet now, and I'm attempting to really, cut out refined carbs altogether. So I'm relying on, hopefully, medjool dates as a better carb source if needed. However, realizing that if I eat too much of the medjool dates, that really kicks me in the butt a little bit, as my sleep efficiency dropped a good 10% last night after having like 1.5 times more ideal amounts of medjool dates during the day yesterday. So, but anyways, I woke, surprisingly, I thought I slept okay, but looking at my metrics of sleep and so on, then I noticed, for some reason, in the earlier morning before waking up, around like 2 hours before waking up, I had a whole bunch of wake up periods or spikes, or however you want to call it. So hence it was not restful, or not, it was not continuous sleep at that moment. So that was something that really reminded me, okay, like, yeah, it really comes down to foods that you're eating that really allow an optimal recovery status and sleep as well. That's just one example. Other examples were realizing that people that I've talked to, worked with, etc., they don't realize, I guess, things that they're eating really bother them, but then they notice an associated symptom with them for you're talking about years and years. For example, milk in particular, or dairy. Some people think that it's fine for them, but then they notice and they don't feel good right after consuming the dairy product or whatever. And it's not just once, you're talking about years, and then later on, some of these people that I know of end up having autoimmune disease kick off for them as well. So again, it's not like they're having large quantities of it, but they're mentioning that, they have it sort of once in a while or pretty regularly, but not a lot at one point. You're talking about maybe a cup a day at most. And even that was enough to really agitate them every time. So yeah, I guess the list can go on in terms of what people may notice in terms of how they feel after eating foods, and maybe they may not notice it at all, especially if there is a subtlety to it, or subtle negative to it. But I guess case in point is, I guess, to optimize the body and to allow full, maximal recovery, but also minimize just any irritation on the gut lining, which has huge impacts onto your functional status, how well you mentally perform, and so on. In this context, you end up realizing that, maybe it is better to forego these things that even bother you to that small extent. At least that's something that I really am aiming to do, just simply because my brain function has not been as great as I'd like it to be. My mental clarity has not been up to par as I'd like it to be. And yeah, I guess those are things that nudge me in the direction that tells me, like, okay, I want to be better. I want to be able to do more. So yeah, just some thoughts on what you eat is quite important compared to just simply how much, as apparently, yeah, like, I guess if you're, okay, just a side note here is, people tend to talk about how much calories, etc., but I've seen and I've known people that they watch how much they're eating, and they think they're doing a good job, but yet they don't have their result of, let's say, like, a common thing is weight loss in terms of how much you're eating, or weight gain in terms of muscle mass, etc. And again, like, they're not eating terrible things. You're talking about a relatively well-balanced diet, enough protein sources, minimal refined carbs, but you have the whole slew of vegetation, fruits, etc. That again, that's where you may find a lot of sources of irritation on the body. But anyways, yeah, just a side note there on how what you're eating really does influence you quite a bit more than just simply how much. So what are your thoughts, experiences? Yeah, definitely share. Okay, until next time, we'll catch you later.